Hello and welcome back to another Nerf Blaster review video for the channel. My name is Luke Triton and today for this video, at long last, 2.5 years later, I am reviewing the Warden. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun video. So the Warden is a pump action spring powered blaster that holds 8 darts and has a shotgun effect. But there is so much to talk about when it comes to this blaster. So when Elite 2.0 first came out in 2020, it was interesting because in the lead up to it, there was some hype. Modulus was gone and this was replacing the original Elite line. So seeing some of the blasters, it was quite interesting. But obviously we all remember all of those reviews where it was so obvious with all of those cost-cutting effects and measures taking place. The Warden was the absolute worst for it. It was so bad, it would break right out of the box, specifically the pump grip here, and it was just shocking. It was labeled by basically everyone in the hobby who had one of these as the worst blaster ever produced. This is interesting because why am I reviewing one now? Last month in December 2022, I discovered that the Warden was being re-released with an Elite 2.0 repaint of the Spectre, which is quite interesting because the Spectre's been around forever, and frankly, the Spectre in Elite 2.0 colours, it does look pretty good. And besides, 2 more attachments in Elite 2.0 colours. That's good because there aren't really that many attachments in Elite 2.0 blue to begin with. It was the Spectre and the Warden packaged together for £30. I thought, that's not bad. It's a reason to get the Warden, and I like the Spectre. I think I got rid of my original one for modifying, for parts or whatever else. Besides, 2 more attachments in 2 more colours. Yay, I love my attachments. But this version of the Warden was more interesting, and this was more tempting to do the video now, because every now and then when I went shopping, there was a particular store that I go to called TK Maxx that would sell literally anything in the toy aisle. And every now and then I would see a Warden, in box, brand new, £13. Now, I would look at that and go, that's going to break the moment I touch it, because of course it will. Loads of other people have had that issue. I wouldn't be surprised if some kid tried to play with it whilst it was still in the box, and it would already be broken. So, why have I got this one now then? This version, in this double pack, whatever the double pack was called, there's like a dozen different multi-blaster packs in Elite 2.0, is actually a joke. But that's, something else for another day. This new version of the Warden is supposedly been remanufactured and remade to essentially break less. It should be much more sturdy in the pump grip. And I thought to myself, okay, if that means I can do a video on the Warden, then I'll go for it. There was always a side of me that wanted to take the previous original version just to do the review and see how long it would take for me to break mine and kind of join the club, so to say. But now that I've got a version that probably won't break on me, I'm actually more intrigued to do the video. I have been playing around with this, I have been firing this blaster quite a bit. It hasn't broken, so that's a good thing. So yeah, we can actually get on with the review. So the Warden is the Elite 2.0 replacement for the Rough Cut. And I never owned a Rough Cut, and there have been plenty of opportunities for me to get one really cheap on eBay. It's apparently still a blaster that's being sold in a couple of different places too, but the fact that the Rough Cut is still around being sold says quite a lot. If the Warden was actually good, well, good in the sense that Elite 2.0 wasn't cheap in the first place, again, that's something else for, another day. It probably wouldn't be a replacement, but it will probably be a good second option to the Rough Cut. So again, this is a pump action blaster with 8 darts at the front, and it has a 2-stage trigger. And this is something that allows some blasters like the Warden to have a shotgun effect. So, priming, you do that. It didn't break, and it actually did feel quite good. There was no soft point where it felt like anything was brittle in that pump action there. The 2-stage trigger works like this. You pull the trigger halfway back, you fire 1 dart. Pull it the rest of the way, you fire the second. It's a bit difficult to do it with this particular blaster, again, given the cheap nature of how the internals are operating. But if I can try and demonstrate it here. So pulling the trigger halfway, you fire 1. All the way, you fire 2. And you can, of course, pull it all the way, straight away, to fire both darts at the same time. Very fun. Shotguns are very fun. This blaster has slam fire, and that is where breakages mainly occurred. But because this is a more rigid version of the Warden, I have been using slam fire previously to this review, so I can pull down the trigger and hold it, fire off the rest of my darts, and it's not broken! Yay! So that is basically how the Warden operates. It's exactly the same as a rough cut, but it is basically a little bit worse given the Elite 2.0 nature. And that's something I wanted to talk about. Not so much to go on for, but this is my purchase recommendation. It's not so much the one-word answer. Here's how I'll put it. So, what blaster is the main standout blaster for a particular line? Here's what I mean. The original N-Strike line from the late 2000s to about 2012 or so? Something like that. Again, I remember when I was first in the hobby, you had the Maverick, the Night Finder, the Recon, the Longshot, those sort of era of blasters. The main blaster that stood out in the N-Strike line, without a doubt, was the Maverick. It's the most iconic Nerf blaster ever. You go to N-Strike Elite, what's the standout front-running face of that line? It's the Strife. It's the most popular blaster ever made. What about Zombie Strike? That's still going apparently, which is actually quite cool given the nature of other lines are pretty much dead with Nerf. But the Hammer Shot was the best thing to come out of Zombie Strike because it's something that's still sold and resold and it's been modified to hell and back. It's such a good blaster. What about Elite 2.0? This is tricky because Elite 2.0 has everything wrong going for it. In terms of good blasters, the best blaster would be the recent Moto Blitz because it's, again, a very fun blaster. I got hold of one, it was very fun, I did the review, and again, had a great time with it. But Elite 2.0 is completely different. You don't remember anything from Elite 2.0 because it's good. You remember Elite 2.0 because it's rubbish. And the worst blaster was and still is and forever will be the Warden. If you're into the hobby and you want to get one for the sake of it being a meme, I can honestly recommend getting one if you get the double pack. Because again, supposedly, this has been remanufactured to be less rubbish and break less. In time, if you get one of these ones and you break it, then you can't really say you're surprised because it's still an awful blaster. There is a reason why so many people in the hobby have labelled the Elite 2.0 Warden as the worst blaster ever produced. And to me, it seems so corporate. I don't doubt that the original Nerf team wanted to make this in a specific way, but when Elite and Modulus were gone and Elite 2.0 was taking over, there was, that's a big change. Modulus is my favourite line because of all the attachments. Elite is elite, but Elite 2.0 was just not good. You can see and tell, and you can even smell all of the cost-cutting takes that were done here. And no doubt it was all because of the corporate overlords were saying to the Nerf team, do it this way because we want to save some money. Elite 2.0 is a stain, and I am potentially going to do a video on how Nerf can improve in the future because this is one of those things where I remember going to the toy shop years ago and seeing all of the Nerf brand blasters on the store shelves and seeing so many cool options. It was insane. But nowadays, Elite 2.0 is supposed to be the main running theme for Nerf now. But they've got Fortnite, they've got dinosaur blasters. Again, this is in the UK, so that's basically it. Some more of the shelves are taken up with other brands, but at the same time, they're not quite as complex or as desirable as something with the Nerf logo on it. But that's just me, and again, that's something I'll save for the future. What happened? What went wrong? I can't recommend this to anyone. It's just not good. It represents so much, but the blaster itself is bad, but what it represents is just atrocious. Don't touch the Warden. If you're new to the hobby, don't touch the Warden. If you want to get it for the sake of getting a meme, then I really hope you've been in the hobby for a few years and you understand what you're getting. So yeah, that's basically my purchase recommendation. I've finally done a video on the Warden. It's done, we did it, and my goodness, I don't think I'm ever going to touch the Warden for the rest of my days. I am tempted to open up the Warden one day. Because I didn't break it today, I don't think I'm going to go into it anytime soon. I have seen pictures of someone on Reddit who was able to open up the blaster and kind of see where all the solvent wells and all the clips were. But yeah, it's going to be one hell of a challenge. And again, I want to open it up on the basis that if I do somehow break it, again, this is supposed to be the improved version. If I break it, I want to be able to open it up and potentially try and fix it. But the other half of me is saying, it's not broken, don't try and fix it, put it in a box, just leave it alone. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So thank you all ever so much for watching. In the description you can find a link to my Discord server where you can chat with like-minded fans of LEGO trains and Nerf blasters. Also in the description you can find a link to my Instagram and Flickr pages for some sneak peeks and behind the scenes action. Keep an eye out on my community tab for polls and updates. Thank you all ever so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next episode. Bye bye.